without anybody else there reminds us of who we really are. I thank him for all of the many ancestors that have paved the way for us. I thank him for his magnificent pattern that any time a people are oppressed, he always raises up men and women from that oppression to help get that people closer and nearer to the freedom that they deserve. So I thank him for men and women like Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth. I thank him for women and men like Nat Turner and Denmark Vesey. I thank him for men and women like Elijah Muhammad and Noble Drew Ali. I thank him for all of those great revolutionaries that laid down an aspect of their life so that we all in this room collectively could have life. Think about the purpose of life in the context that somebody gave their own essence that you and I could sit in a room today and talk about purpose. I thank him most importantly in Black History Month for the unnamed heroes and sheroes whose names don't always ring in our ears, but their blood has filled the soil of this land, and more importantly, their struggle and their purpose has given to us a reason for existence today. I thank him for Maria Stewart, the first Black woman to engage in political activism inside the United States. I thank him for the women aboard the slave ships who, because they weren't chained to a physical change, they used that social mobility to create revolution amongst the slaves. And even though we're in a context where Black women outnumber Black men in UC Davis, we have to wonder how many of us are using that social mobility to create a level of revolution for our people. They were ordinary human beings, but they achieved extraordinary things by commitment, conviction, and purpose. Everybody in here has a birthday, right? We was all born at some point. And every year, all of us expect, for some random, weird reason, that when my birthday comes around, everybody else is going to stop and give me a birthday present. Me personally, on my birthday, I like to call my mom. Well, I see her usually. I like to see my mom, and I tell her thank you. Because there was nothing that I did to bring myself into existence. Every year, we have an expectation around our birthday that folks are going to come and bring us these gifts. And these great gifts, you know, sometimes we might get some Jordans, we might get some Coach purse, right? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. You might get some things that you really like. And when you get that gift, do you feel happy?
Sometimes. Depending. I do.
We're going to get y'all some new friends. When I get gifts from folks, I feel happy. Because I feel what? Appreciated. I feel affirmed. I feel like I did something worth that deserving that gift. Well, what is the greatest gift that we have? And that's what we want to talk about today. The greatest gifts that you and I have are life and guidance to live that life. The greatest gift that you and I have is life. And yet most of us, through the course of our lives, never even unwrap that gift. I'm going to say that again. The greatest gift that you and I have is life. Yet over the course of our lives, most of us never unwrap that gift to understand what it is, what it means, and how do I use it. Life, brothers and sisters, can be summed up as the sum of all of our relationships. Life is the total of all of our relationships. How do I know we don't unwrap that gift? Look at our relationships. How do we relate to ourselves? What do we think when we look in the mirror? How many of us ever ask ourselves, who am I? What is our relationship to our Creator? What is our relationship to each other? What is our relationship to brother, to sister, to mom, to dad, to family members? What is our relationship to the universe? Black people suffer from failed relationships. This failure in relationship is the result of a lack of knowledge of the meaning of our own lives. Life is a small amount of time that each of us have in between our parents and our children, right? Yes? All of us was born and we're gonna. Life is a very small amount of time. So everybody that's in here has to question at some point, what is the meaning of my life? You don't have forever. Most of us live our entire lives unfulfilled. Imagine how many black people die every single year from heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, rheumatism, arthritis, black-on-black violence, drug overdose, alcohol overdose. Most of us live our entire lives without ever having felt fulfilled. Our entire lives we live in this sadness every single day. Because I know that I'm here, and I know deep down in myself there's something I'm supposed to contribute to the world. And for some reason I cannot seem to do it. For some reason I can't seem to bring that greatness in myself and make it something real. I don't know a man that I've ever met that did not have a dream. I don't know a human being that I've ever met that did not have a dream to do something great. But somewhere along the road, we quit. And in that quit, we have given up on the purpose of life. For what purpose did God choose you amongst 200 million sperm cells? For what purpose did God allow you not only to be one of those 200 million, but to actually go through 9 months of life-changing experiences every single day, and to be born in a period of 24 to 48 hours? For what purpose were you chosen? Not what purpose was Dr. King chosen. Not what purpose was Malcolm X chosen. Not what purpose was Star or Salih chosen. For what purpose are you here in existence? These are the questions that we must ask ourselves. Now I want to close on 2 points. Many of us, if I really ask us, what do you want in life? Most of us would say, I want to be happy. Is that right? You want to be happy?
Yes.
Most of us would say, I want to be happy. And yet, when happiness presents itself, most of us run the other way. How does that happen? Happiness is when one has found their purpose in life and is doing it. That's why some folks don't need $100,000 a year. They don't need $1 million. They don't need all these friends and all these families. They don't need the Coach purse and the Jordan shoes. All they need is to know, I have found what I am here for, and I am doing it. Well, why can't we find that purpose? It is because finding that purpose is difficult, and most of us flee from difficulty. How do I find my purpose? If you are not willing to struggle, what are you alive for? If you're not willing to overcome difficulty, what then are you doing with your time on earth? Your purpose can only be achieved through struggle. Struggle is the pathway towards self-actualization. It is the process of becoming who I am destined to become. Struggle, brothers and sisters, is the key to life itself. There are 4 questions we must ask if I want to find my purpose. Number 1, I must be willing to turn to He who created me to understand for what purpose I am here. How many of us asked to be born? Not one, right? So somebody else at another time, somebody else with greater control than I, made a decision that I was worthy of being born. Somebody say, I'm worthy.
I'm worthy.
See, you're worthy of being alive. Someone made the decision that your life was valuable enough to come into reality. So all of us at some point at night need to get down on our knees like we used to before we got an education. And we need to ask the one who gave us life, for what purpose did you give me life? Question 2. You must be willing to examine the context and the content of your birth and your life up to this point. Every one of us are born with particular circumstances surrounding our birth. My parents, for example, when I was born, they was poor, but they were committed to a struggle. They were committed to building a system of living for black folks that could change our reality. And as a result of that idea in their minds, they could produce certain things in my reality. So you should ask your parents, what were you thinking when I was born? It's a serious question. Because whatever they were thinking, brothers, thoughts are things. Whatever they were thinking literally formed your genetic makeup. It formed your face and your heart and your lungs and it's in your DNA. Am I making sense? So number 2, ask your parents, what was you thinking about when I was born? Number 3, question yourself, what is it that I love doing and that I love to do best? Most of us get jobs, and it's really weird, because I work with a lot of black folks. Most of us get jobs in fields that we did not major in. And every time I see it, I just go, what the hell did you go to school for? No, seriously. Most of us major in communications and you go get a job in business or something. Seriously. It's because we're trying to make money, but we're not realizing that money isn't the pathway to happiness. Money isn't the pathway to success. It's following your route. If you ain't a preacher, don't try being a preacher. And if you're not a doctor, don't operate on me. You know what I'm saying? You have to question, what is it that I love to do and that I do best? Number 4, most of us, between the time we're born and the time we die, have life full of clutter. Anybody ever had a dirty room before? Obviously, right? No. College students. How many folks study effectively around dirty rooms? It's all right. That's you. You're unique. Most of us don't study effectively in a dirty room. How can we study effectively? How can we develop effectively with a dirty mind? How often do we actually analyze self and work to deal and work through the problems of self? When we are born, we are all born perfect, but not perfected. We are all born complete, but not completed. In that stage at birth, you're a beautiful baby, right? I hope so. At that stage, life is beautiful. But between that stage and the opposite end where death, it's all this clutter. It's all this stuff that gets in the way from our natural way of happiness and joy. Because when people die, it ain't no sad, it ain't no happy, it's just peace. Just a deep breath. Done. Life is over. When you're born, bam, life begins, right? In between, things happen in life. And these things end up diverting us from the thing that we were born to do. So the thing we all have to figure out is, what are those things and those experiences in my life that are impeding me from living up to my own potential? For some of us, it might be drugs. For others, it might be alcohol. For some of us, it might be, I don't know how to relate well to my brothers and my sisters. For some of us, it's, whenever somebody talks to me, I always want to go off. For some of us, we all got issues, right? You got to think about, what are your issues? And how do you actually get over them? Because as long as your issues is a barrier, you will not be able to achieve your purpose. And now I'm going to close on this point. At the end of the day, we all have 2 purposes in this room. Purpose number 1, you black. Period. Period. Exclamation point. At the end of the day, your behind is black. So at the end of the day, you have a responsibility to serving folks that look like you. At the end of the day, you have a responsibility to not upset your ancestors who fought so that your behind could live today. Because I think if some of our ancestors came back today, they'd be quite daggone disappointed with the way we was living our lives. I think if the slaves that slaved and toiled under torment came back, they would be disappointed at the level of resistance we have today. They'd be disappointed in the fact that most of us ain't willing to miss a class for something greater than ourselves. They'd be disappointed in things like that. So all of us got a larger responsibility. How do I contribute to black humanity? And yes, like that helps everybody else, but be black, right? The second purpose is that's your personal purpose. By what specific methodology do I contribute to the black liberation struggle? Am I making sense? Anybody seen the movie Lucy? It's my last one.
Yes,
Lucy?
the newer movie?
Yeah, Morgan Freeman. I'm the only movie guy. Okay. But anyway, in this movie, Morgan Freeman has his line, and he tells this woman named Lucy, who's a white woman, interesting, because she's named after the original African, the oldest African bones, the oldest human bones found in Ethiopia, and they call her Lucy. Also interesting. But anyway, so Morgan Freeman, he's talking to her. He says the whole purpose of life is to pass on knowledge. And he says the cells, their entire purpose is to live for a period of time and to pass on what? DNA and RNA. So that the next set of cells can do what? Live and do what? Pass on DNA and RNA. Pass on knowledge. The purpose of life is contained in the ability to pass on knowledge. So all of us got to consider, what is it that I'm passing on to the generation that comes after me? We're each a chain in a link in a long chain going back to the beginning. And if a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, then we have to consider where we fit on that chain called life. So I hope I said something that was useful and meaningful. I hope that we can go forward, really considering, what am I here for? And what can I do to improve our world? I thank y'all. Bring Star back up.